Hey y'all, Red here, also known as Redone Stick on YouTube. I don't do the whole video thing, I don't do the whole show my face thing, just not my thing. But, and if you hear something in the background, that's one of my cats. I got two of them. Anyway, I had to do some kind of response to some of the comments I've been reading and what I've been able to actually make it through watching of the Make the Bus Monitor Cry video. I am 27, going to be 28 in July. From the second grade on until freshman year of high school, I was subjected to some of the most brutal, terrorizing behavior of bullies that you could imagine. I had things thrown at me, I was hit, beat down on the sidewalk, while a bus driver watched and didn't do anything. There were no repercussions, and I was too shocked from the whole event to be like, what the fuck? I was terrorized, had my books kicked down the hallway. I didn't feel safe walking to or from school. I didn't feel safe walking through the hallways in school because I was always looking over my shoulder. Hell, I didn't even feel safe on my own family's property because they would seek me out and run after me, throwing shit at me, trying to hit me, trying to beat me up. And these were neighborhood kids. These were kids my own age. They were doing this shit. And it happened that one of them, well, two of them technically, came from a well-connected family. I'm not going to get into names, and I'm not going to get into really even titles, because that is not the point of this. The point was, nobody wanted to call these little shits out, because their parent was a public figure in the community. And nobody wanted to go against him and point out that his little brats were monsters. So these school administrators, these bus drivers, would all turn the other way or tell me to, quote, get over it, or, well, boys will be boys, or whatever. After a while, I learned adults could not be trusted. I couldn't look to them to protect me. I didn't feel safe at school, and I didn't feel safe at home even walking out my own backyard. And that's wrong. That's so wrong. I love school. Still do. When I'd gone through into law school, I didn't love school, or masochistic, you take your pick. And they would come taunting right up to the fence lines, me, or come onto the property. And they'd always do it when people weren't around that would object. So it was always my word against their dad, who would be yelling and screaming about how his kids weren't monsters. Well, fuck that noise. They were. I hope they either got over it, got better, or they're sitting in prison. I don't know which one. Either option works for me. I don't hold a grudge at this point in my life, because I'm not going to let them decide how I feel about myself. Let them occupy an area of my mind that I need for my own work, my own development. But I will tell you this. This idea that authority figures, that some people in these comments, this bus monitor bullying, are going to protect you. Bullshit. They will protect you to the extent that it keeps their ass from getting in trouble. And that is the truth. Or when someone calls them out and a big enough hoopla to say, hey, this is wrong, and forces them to do something. Now, I don't know nothing about Greece, New York. I know nothing about their school district. But I never had a school bus monitor on my bus. Shit. I had crap thrown at me. I was hit. I was, spat at. I was, and I took it because I knew no one would care. No one in the school district was gonna do anything to come to my aid. I learned that. It doesn't take long for a kid to realize that nobody gives a shit. Only reason any reason I'm still here today alive, because I was at the point where I was just like, this is enough. I can't take this anymore. This is no kind of way to live. Because my mom stepped in. She believed me. My own father didn't even really believe me. He didn't want to believe that these fine upstanding boys were these little monsters. He didn't want to believe it, so he looked the other way too. My own father. He didn't believe me. And I've forgiven him for that. And he has apologized to me tearfully, just so sick. But at the time, it's like, no adult here is believing me. I'm here all of my own, 12, 13 years of age. And every day I go to school, I'm having to look over my shoulder. That's wrong. That's just wrong. And if I'm doing like accents weird and shit, I apologize. It's just when I get worked up and I've been listening to something or another a lot. And anyway, I live in Michigan. I swear to God, I am not Southern. Anyway, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just I may sound like I am, but when I'm worked up, I tend to blend accents. I don't know why it's weird. Anyway. The thing was, my mom went to bat for me every time. But nobody believed her. They figured she was just an interfering old woman with a cane, who was being overprotective of the kid. No one believed how bad it had gotten, because none of them had seen it, or if they had seen it, they'd looked the other way conveniently, or just pretended they hadn't seen it, because they didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to deal with the repercussions of hauling these kids in and having their dad come in and blow a gasket. They were afraid. Finally, we got one school principal to listen. And he brought it to an end, finally. He told my mom, well, life can't be fair. And she says, yeah, it's not fair, I understand that. But when you're dealing with a 12 or 13-year-old kid, there should be some justice after a while. And she'd been tolerating this for years, and nobody has been giving her any kind of justice, to the point of where she doesn't trust any of you guys to protect her. And that's what got through finally. There is justice that is deserved. Life's not fair, yeah. But there should be some sense of justice when somebody has been so viciously wronged. And that's what stopped all of this, finally. Now, they tried to keep going on and doing shit, being little shitheads. But after that, my teachers all knew what was going on. And they went to bat for me. They made sure that they were keeping these kids away from me. They were keeping an extra eye on them once they knew. God bless them. Because once they knew that this was a verified problem, big problem, they took action. And they took care of me. When I went to high school, there was an incident in the hallway where they tried to intimidate me. I reported it to the principal right away. Done. There was no more problems after that. I heard later that all the kids got hauled into the school office, got in trouble, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. But it stopped what they were doing. They were forced to admit that they could not act like that. Not in this society, not in any society. You don't get to act like that to other people. And I don't understand these kids coming up now. Kids like these little fucking brats on this bus. Frickin' hell. I mean, I can't imagine. And the kids in that bus who did not step up, who weren't in the videos, who didn't step up and say, hey man, this is wrong. We should not be doing this to this woman. Where is your integrity? Where is your sense of character? That you will just sit there and idly watch as this woman. And the thing is, people are like, well, blah, blah, blah. This is all blown out of proportion. No. This was the last day of school. These kids planned this for the last day of school so that there would be no repercussions right away for them. And I know that for a fact from reading on the news articles and stuff. This was the last day of school. And that is why they did it then. They had planned it and, so that they knew that there would be no immediate repercussions to them. In terms of the next day, the bus monitor was going to be upset and angry at them and all that kind of shit. I don't know how that woman was able to take what she took. I'm guessing that probably she become kind of like Pavlov's dog, or, but not Pavlov's dog. She'd become accustomed to that treatment in one way or another. And she tolerated it. Because maybe she said something before, and like with me, nobody listened, or they told her stop being so sensitive, stop being so, over sensitive, stop being, boys will be boys, kids will be kids, all those bullshit lines. And so nothing happened to these kids, so they figured they could keep on doing it. And it got to that point. Because that is exactly the pattern of behavior that I experienced. So if you tell me that this ain't real, that this could not possibly happen, that it is a fake, you are fucking dreaming. Because it happens every day to kids, adults, older folks, animals, you name it. Someone in society is doing it to them because they are perceived as smaller, weaker, or they won't fight back because they don't feel like they can. Now, I don't condone some of the shit I've been reading regarding these kids in terms of violence toward them and all that kind of crap. They should not be dealt with in vigilante justice. But there should be some accounting for justice from the police, from the school, from the parents, for God's sakes. If I were the parent of one of those kids, I would be absolutely, I don't even know. Because at this point, these kids' names are now out there. I mean, not that that's great, not that that's a good thing, that shouldn't be, but they are out there. So now all these parents have people they work with, people they live next door to, now know what kind of kids they have raised. And I can guarantee there's at least one of those associates they have, who was just like, holy hell, what the fuck wrong did you do? Wow. God. My little Susie ain't going over to your house anymore. I don't want them turning out like your kids, being an influence on my kids. Shh. If I were the parents of one of those kids, I'd be in tears. I would be absolutely devastated. Because those kids are a reflection, direct reflection, of the kind of parents they have. Or didn't have, as the case seems to be. Parents who are people who are popping out kids who don't want to take any responsibility for these kids. Or they want to coddle them, or treat them like they can do no wrong. I'm not saying you gotta beat your kids. I'm not saying you gotta lay a hand on your kids. I never had a hand laid on me, with the exception of occasional swat to the butt, when I was really acting a fool. But the thing was, I was afraid of my parents, but in a good way. I'm not saying, you should not be afraid of your parents, in terms of, like, oh my God, they're gonna hurt me. No. I was afraid of my parents in a way of, I don't want to disappoint them. They expect a certain line of behavior from me, because that is a representation of them. I am them. I am their representation to the world on my level, my age level, whatever. I was afraid to disappoint them because I knew better. Because when I did something stupid, I got punished. I got sent to my room. I lost TV privileges. I got told, go outside and, I will think of something to do to you later. Because right now I'm so angry, I can't think straight. And I would usually end up being, go to your room, or, no TV, no internet, whatever. I didn't have any video games, so I know, lack of childhood. But the video game I did have, I bought myself. Because I worked, I saved my allowance, and I bought myself a little Game Gear in 5th grade. I was so happy. But I worked for that, and I knew that if I didn't take care of that, I wouldn't get another one unless I came up with the money for it. And that is the truth. So, these little brats who think they can act like this, they're in for a rude awakening someday. Because if these parents allow these kids to continue acting like this, they're going to end up with parents who are afraid of their kids, and I have had a parent say that. One of the parents of the bullies that I dealt with growing up, she didn't understand how my mom could stand up to her children, because she told my mom, she says, well, I'm scared of my kids. What the fuck? You are scared of your children. Your children who are snot-nosed little brats about 10, 12 years of age. What the fuck? You are a grown adult. You brought them into this world. You could tell them where the bullshit and the buckwheat, man, come on. They're still young enough where you can just sit them down and be like, well, listen, there's going to be a new change in regime here. And it's called, don't fuck with me. So this idea that these kids can't exist, that these kids, oh, this must be all trumped up, this woman must be lying, there's a scam, blah, blah, blah. No. One has been verified by numerous sources, both local news and national news, as well as international news. It has been verified. 2, these little dumb shits, at least my bullies had the common sense not to do it when someone was around that would give a shit to bully me. These little shits put their faces and names on camera. What the So we actually know exactly who they are, where they live, what they look like. And 3, it's a conditioned behavior over time where you come to expect to be treated like that by certain people. And you learn to tolerate it because you know no one's going to back you up if you complain. And the more you complain, the worse it gets because the kids find out and then they go on at you, or the administration decides that you're just being a troublemaker and they don't, they take it more of initiative to make your life miserable or to ignore you even more, so now you have the decency to call you back. Things of that nature, which actually has happened to me. So, I mean, to think that this isn't a possible thing, that it has to be a scam, what dream world are you living in? Fuck you. It happens. It happened to me. I've seen it happen to others, and I've tried to stop it. Fuck you. If you've been privileged enough that you haven't had to deal with something that badly, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Nobody, not me, my worst enemy. Then consider yourself lucky. Because it's likely that someone you know is a survivor of this kind of bullying. But they don't talk about it because they moved on with their lives. They became better people for it. Not because they should have, not because they should have to, but because they, for their own peace of mind, had to. They had to be able to move past that. Because otherwise, they'd be dead. Simple as that. They'd kill themselves. You gotta be able to move past it. And become something that channels your sense of powerlessness and voicelessness into something good to help people. And I think that's why I'm an attorney now. I don't like bullies. I stand up for people who get bullied every day. I'm not saying they're all saints, and I'm not saying they're all not guilty. But what I'm saying is this. They got the right just as anybody else does to be represented fairly, to be represented under the law, and to have justice. Everyone deserves justice. Life's not fair, but there should be some justice in the world where people are punished and held accountable for what they do to other people. But the way it is right now, that is not how we are living. And that's a sad state of affairs there, my friends. So, in closing, I pray for those little monsters on that bus. And they are lucky it was not me that they were trying to do this stuff to. Because when I was a kid, I may have put up with it. But now, as an adult, that woman should be nominated for sainthood for not taking them out and just beating the ever-living shit out of them. Or, since they seem to be so happy with these different swear words they're using, I could teach them a few. I got a few. I bet I could come up with a few combinations they never even dreamt of to use on their stupid asses. So, I mean, they think they're big and bad. Kids think they're big and bad. They're not. They're little punks who think it's cool to beat up on someone they perceive as weaker than them. And you want to know something? Until society puts its foot down collectively and says, no, you can't do this, we are not going to tolerate this, you are wrong and you are going to be punished for this, it's going to keep happening. And kids, adults, elderly folk, animals, whatever the fuck you want to talk about, trees, respect for other living creatures, respect, empathy. What the fuck? Where was the empathy for these people? We are raising a generations as it looks like, of kids that have no empathy for others. They don't know how to feel the pain of another, how to understand that their actions hurt another. And that's just scary. Because if you cannot feel for another living creature and understand that something you do will hurt this living creature, whether it be verbal or physical, if you can't understand that, then you are a scary individual.